I hate to break it to you, but your brain isn't designed to make you happy. Our brains exist literally for survival. Happiness is really by choice. If you desire to be happy, then you must actively take control of your emotions, rather than hoping that you'll become happy for a certain event. Because one of the keys of happiness is understanding how dopamine actually works. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, which plays a role in rewarding our behaviors. When dopamine is released into the specific areas of our brain, we get a lot of pleasure out of it, and we get this intense sense of well-being, similar to a high. Hence, it comes from usually things that are actually difficult or challenging, such as making money or wealth, or exercising, eating great food. These things actually contribute to our survival in society. One of the roles of dopamine, as I mentioned, is to look for food, especially, so you don't die of starvation, and you search for a partner so you can reproduce. Without dopamine, it would basically be all extinct. However, in today's world, it's very different because dopamine can be stimulated artificially, which creates overstimulation. For example, you go on social media, they use psychological tactics and strategies to extract as much data and time from your life as much as possible through notifications, through infinite scrolling, autoplaying on videos. And these strategies are deliberately used to trigger releases of dopamine so that you can stay connected for as long as possible. And as a result, the businesses on there and the services that they provide can generate more money and wealth. Watching porn is so easily accessible these days, or gambling especially, where you can do online gambling, leads to releases of dopamine, and it's just highly addictive. Hence, the version of happiness in this modern day and age is really leading us to become eventually more unhappy, which explains why depression levels are so high. As we become more addicted to just the chase of dopamine, rather than embracing what the reality is in itself. These real addictions can have severe consequences on our health, whereby a study by Tulane University showed that when permitted to self-stimulate, the participants did an average of 40 times per minute. They chose the stimulation of pleasure over food, where they even would starve themselves, refusing to eat. So to take control requires responsibility, that you must understand the role of dopamine and how it affects your happiness. You have to identify what exactly are you actually addicted to. Is it your phone? Is it your TV, video games, gambling? And most of us are addicted to something. To better control your emotions, you must recognize your addictions, as they can literally deplete your happiness. And the problem, I wouldn't say isn't addiction, but it's being addicted to the wrong things, especially things that sabotage your well-being and health. For example, I've gone on anime binges and video games on Netflix, these types of addictions that I've had. And sometimes it is quite addictive. But then I start to put priority on things that are more important to me, like my sleep time, my health especially. So exercising, food, making sure I eat on time, drinking enough water, eating nutritious food. And because I've developed a purpose behind it, because it makes me perform better cognitively, it's good for my body, for my longevity, and I just feel a lot better about myself and happier as a result, and more proud and able to output much more, as opposed to being addicted to those things. So that's what helps me stay away from being addicted to those types of things and activities. And a lot of the time, people also sit around thinking that one day they will achieve their dreams and finally be happy. If you actually take a second and just think about your dream and just be living in that moment, ask yourself, will you really be any happier than you are now? Like, truthfully. Of like, you wouldn't experience anything else other than happiness. Like, sure, you will achieve your goals, but you won't live just happily ever after like Disney shows you. And this is something that the mind actually does to play a trick on us. Our minds quickly end up just adjusting to new situations, which is probably the result of us being able to actually survive and reproduce. The adaptation is probably why new cars, new houses, new technology, new cars, new consoles, whatever you get, new games, will only make you happy for a certain period of time, but not forever. Once the initial excitement wears off, then you'll be craving for the next one or the next big thing. And this is known as hedonic adaptation. It's just like when the new iPhone came out, everyone was happy, excited, and etc. After a few months, they're like, when's the next one coming out? And it's exactly what we do with the things that we want or like we desire, like having a Lamborghini, etc., or whatever car or any other materialistic type of good. Once we acquire it, we treat it like a baby for a week, and after that we just don't really care if it gets scratched, or it doesn't really matter to us as much as we're looking forward to the next big thing. So now, how does hedonic adaptation really work? So there was a study actually in 1978 on lottery winners and paraplegics, who are people that physically can't move with their legs. The investigation showed and evaluated how winning the lottery or becoming a paraplegic influences happiness. The study found that 1 year after the event, both the groups were just as happy as they were beforehand. And it just shows how your mind tricks you into thinking you'll be happy once you've made it. But the study just literally showed and proved that this is not the case and it's not true. No matter what happens to your mind, it reverts to your predetermined level of happiness once you've adapted to the new event. It doesn't mean you can't be happier than you are right now. It just means in the long run, the external events can have minimal impact on your level of happiness. Hence, it's believed even that 50% of your happiness is determined by genetics, 40% is by internal factors, and 10% is by external factors. The external factors of being single, married, rich or poor, and societal influences have barely as much impact. The influence of external factors is significantly much less than you think it to be. Hence, it's not about what happens to you, but it's about your attitude towards life, which is what actually influences your happiness. But I do think there is definitely some correlation with having a community and social networks. And I mean, having quality friends and quality social interactions in your life. Because there have been studies as well, like one of the longest studies, which I think has been running for 80 years, which shows that the key to happiness was really, or a part of it was really having quality relationships and friendships. And without having that, it leads to loneliness and high levels of depression. So the action step that I recommend is writing what gives you dopamine and which of these are the most are you addicted to. So this was part 2 of Emotional Mastery series, and if you like this, then subscribe and like the video and stay tuned for the next part.